My paranormal story isn't one that has an ending. It's one that seems to be ongoing to this day. I say this because every time I think I've seen the last of this, a new chapter is written. It all started when I was young, about 7 or 8 years old, hanging out in my house and doing what any kid in the early 90s would do when they had nothing to do, lay down on the couch and stare at the ceiling. As I looked up to the white ceiling, wondering what to do next, a head begins to emerge from the top of my vision. Her hair was black, her skin was pale. Before it got to her eyes, I freaked out and jumped up to look at what it was that was scaring me. I initially thought it was my sister, who had a tendency to bug me like a normal big sister, but when I turned, there was nothing. I was all by myself. I never said anything to anyone, not even my parents, as they would figure I was just a kid with an overactive imagination. I started to think to myself that was the case anyway. Ghosts don't exist, right? That would be silly. Nothing happened for years after that. So much so that I really did think I was just seeing things. That was until it happened again. This time I was 14. I was in the house, playing computer games in the den, when the same head poked out from the doorframe of the room. I jolted out of fright and looked at the doorframe, but like last time, the head disappeared. There wasn't anyone even in the house at the time. Like last time, though, I refrained from saying anything to my family. While they had belief in the supernatural, mainly my mom, I once again told myself that I was just seeing things. Years passed once again. I went most of my 20s haunt-free. I would think back on what I saw and think to myself, perhaps I was seeing things. That changed the year I turned 30. One night, while I was laying in bed, I was having a bit of trouble sleeping. When I finally started to relax and close my eyes, suddenly a weight was felt falling on the side of my bed, as if someone sat down on it. I snapped open my eyes and looked down, but nothing was there. But I could still feel the weight. Immediately, I turned the light on and sat up. There was no one there, and the weight all but vanished when the light came on. Needless to say, I was pretty spooked. 3 years passed, and I was once again laying in bed on a late night. I wasn't struggling to get sleep this time, and was actually ready to close my eyes and dream my troubles away. I moved to my right side to get more comfortable, when I saw her. The black-haired figure standing in the dark distance, looking at me. I stared right back at her, and she turned to her right and walked straight through my wall to the backyard like there was nothing obstructing her. 1 year later, it happened again. The same kind of dark night. The same state of sleepiness. I was sleeping for a couple hours, when I woke up after feeling that I had to go to the bathroom. I did so, and then went back to bed. I started to relax once again, and turned to my right side as the drowsiness was taking over. I was almost ready to fully close my eyes and let dreamland take over, when the figure emerged from the right corner of my eye, as if she was walking into the room, and kneeled down on the side of the bed, placing her elbows on the mattress and leaning forward to look at me up close and personal. I felt her weight pressing down on the mattress, and this felt like it was far from a dream. "What do you want?" I asked her, but she didn't answer. Quickly I turned on the light to see who this apparition was, but once again, as soon as the light came on, she was gone. 2 years have passed by since then, and nothing that intense has occurred. I keep trying to wrap my head around why I continue to have these moments. I'm not that terribly interesting, so why would she continue to see me all these years? Perhaps she's waiting for me to cross into the afterlife, so that we can go on ghost adventures together. That could be fun, but I kind of want to live at this point in time. I don't know when the next big event will occur, but it may not be too far behind. Whenever I go to work and park in the garage, before I get out, I like to take a moment to relax as a way to prepare myself for the busy day ahead. Whenever I do that, though, there's always something moving past the right view mirror, even though there's no one there. When I was younger, long after the Dirty Dave incident had been forgotten, I finally made the transition to high school. To say it wasn't easy was an understatement. I'd chosen to go to a high school that was far away from where I lived to get away from bullies. Sadly, the high school wasn't much better, and I was an easy target, because everyone else in my class had grown up together and gone through primary school together. That meant I was the new kid, and because I wasn't one of the popular kids, I was an easy target. Still, I kept my head down as best I could and focused on studying and avoiding the bullies as much as I could. Occasionally, one of the girls would try to befriend me, but it quickly became known that anyone who wanted to be my friend would suffer social death, and being 12-year-olds, that was a fate worse than death. In the end, I spent most of my spare time outside class hiding in the library. You should know at this point that the school we went to was an old middle school that had been repurposed to hold our classes because the school system had just changed to remove middle schools. It was widely rumored to be haunted, which was a source of great delight and terror to us all. It was even said that the school had been built on top of an old graveyard, but I didn't really believe that. It seemed odd to me that anyone would build a school on top of the dead. The school building was going to be knocked down after we moved up to the next year group, so the high school only spent just enough to meet regulations and nothing more. It was a maze of a place, easy to get lost in, and had long, twisting corridors that took forever to get around, or so it seemed. As the school was going to be knocked down, the local council had sold off part of the land to a housing developer, and a new housing estate had been built right up against the new boundary of the school. This is where two girls, Emma and Rebecca, had moved into and joined our class. They didn't exactly make friends with me, but neither were they unkind to me, something I was grateful for. One day, Emma asked if I wanted to come to her house after school with Rebecca. At first, I was hesitant. I had just spent the past 3 months being picked on for no other reason than I happened to exist in the same room as the popular kids. Emma promised me it wasn't a setup, that she just wanted to try using a Ouija board. Didn't know what a Ouija board was then. It was new to me, so I asked Emma what it was and what it did. Emma just said it was a way to talk to people we loved who weren't alive anymore. That didn't sound too bad to my 12-year-old self, and I agreed to go to her house with them the next day. The next morning, I told my mom I was going to be late because I was going to a friend's house and that she didn't need to worry. I'd be home before 8. I think my mom was just happy I was making a friend somewhere and agreed I could go. The school day dragged. It seemed like time had slowed down as we went from classroom to classroom for each lesson, and the bell at the end of the day couldn't come soon enough. Emma and Rebecca were waiting for me by the front entrance and were excited as I was. Seeing as Emma's house was backed onto the school playing field and there was a gate to the fence to her garden, we walked across the field and through her garden. To her credit, she absolutely didn't lie. There was no setup. Nobody waiting to ambush me outside the school or the front of her house. It was just the 3 of us, because our parents weren't home from work yet. Emma got some snacks for us. We dumped our school bags in the hallway and went upstairs to her room. I was envious of her room. It was all pinks and purples and looked fit for a princess to my eyes. To put it kindly, my bedroom looked like a gremlin cave no matter how much I kept it clean or tried to add feminine touches to it. She even had her own double bed, which seemed like a luxury to me. Me and Rebecca sat on the bed and started snacking while Emma got the board. After she got from the bottom of her wardrobe, she sat on the bed with us and put it between us. We gossiped for a while, all of us feeling apprehensive, but none of us wanting to be the one to back out. The box was pristine, and I remember looking at it feeling vaguely disappointed it didn't look spookier. I don't know why I thought it should look spookier, but I did, and I giggled and said, "Is that it?" Emma laughed nervously and said yes. Rebecca didn't say anything for a moment, but looked like she suddenly felt sick. Then a whisper, she looked at us both and said, "Can you feel that?" "Feel what?" I asked her. She nodded at the box. "The energy," she said. I laughed and said no, there was nothing to be afraid of. It was just a box and a board. As you can tell, I didn't lose my bravery over the years. Quite deliberately, I put my bag of crisps down, wiped my fingers on my school trousers, and opened the box. The moment the lid came off, I understood what Rebecca had meant. I wasn't about to chicken out now, so I took it out of the box along with the planchette and put it on the bed. Emma smiled brightly. Oddly, now that I think about it looking back, as if she was trying to face down something that she knew deep down she probably shouldn't be playing around with. I guess me and Emma had more in common that day than we thought, besides the fact that we had the same first name. At first we were being silly. Emma read the instructions and told us what to do and called out, "Is anybody there?" The planchette didn't move. Emma called out a couple more times and the planchette stayed stubbornly still. Rebecca didn't want to be left out, and she called out too. Again. nothing happened, and we started giggling. Emma started doing silly voices as she called out, "Is anybody there? Come out! Come out! Wherever you are!" As we were being silly, a strange smell appeared. I know it as sulfur now, but we didn't then, and Emma wrinkled her nose and asked us if we'd farted. That made us laugh even harder, even as we denied it. Emma opened her bedroom window next to the bed and let the stench out and accused us both of being gross while trying to cover her nose with her school shirt. We weren't any better. We accused Emma right back while laughing and trying to cover our noses. Then Emma said, "Emma, you haven't tried it. Give it a go." I was feeling silly and happy, so I told Emma and Rebecca to put their fingers back on the planchette. Once we'd stopped giggling enough to focus again, I called out, "Is anybody there? Does anyone want to talk to us?" The planchette moved to yes. "You moved that! I know you did," I said to them. "It didn't move before, so it's gotta be you." They both denied it vehemently. I was certain they were playing with me because nothing had happened for the last half an hour. "Okay," I said, not wanting to damage a fragile friendship. "What shall we ask it?" "Ask it who it is," Emma said. I dutifully did so, and the planchette didn't move. This solidified my suspicion that they'd moved it the first time. "Ask it if it knows who we are," Rebecca said. I dutifully asked it, and the planchette moved in a small circle away from the yes and back to it. At this point, I was getting creeped out, and the smell of sulfur got stronger. I asked Emma and Rebecca if they had any more questions because I wanted to stop this as soon as possible. Emma looked at the clock and said one more, and then we had to stop because her parents would be back soon. "Okay," I said. "What do you want to ask it?" "Ask it if it has a message for us," Emma said. I'd only just begun to ask the question when the planchette moved. None of us were laughing as we watched the planchette begin spelling out words. The planchette whirled around the board as it delivered the following message: E M M A W I L L D I E. Emma will die. Me and Emma looked at each other. I'm sure her face was as white as mine. Rebecca didn't look much better either. "Nah, I'm out," I said. "I don't know what this is, but I am over it." Emma agreed and started putting it back in its box. The smell of sulfur intensified, and Emma, angry now, accused us again of being disgusting and farting on her clean bed. Obviously, we denied it again and stood up to leave. None of us were happy now, and in my mind, I saw it as them having set me up to be embarrassed so they could tell the other kids at school just how scared I'd been. Rebecca made a strange noise then, and I was looking up. My eyes followed her gaze, and for a long moment I was frozen. Emma had finished putting the Ouija board away and asked what we were staring at. Then she saw it too. From where the ceiling joins the wall, red fluid was beginning to run down it. We watched silently as more and more appeared. "What's that?" Emma asked in a whisper. "Blood, I think," Rebecca whispered back. Emma prodded me, none too gently. "Go check it," she hissed through her teeth at me. At first I refused, until she said she'd tell her parents I did it, because I was awful to them. I didn't want to get into trouble for something I didn't do, so I inched just close enough to touch my finger to it and pulled it back. I tried to smell it, but I couldn't tell, so I did the thing I could think of. I licked it. It was definitely blood. I said as much to Emma. She gave a weird moan and told us to go downstairs and get some cleaning stuff out of the kitchen. I didn't hesitate and bolted with Rebecca not too far behind. Anything to get out of that room for a minute. We grabbed the cleaning stuff we found out of the sink and reluctantly climbed the stairs again. "Don't worry," Rebecca said as we went up the stairs. "I won't let her get you in trouble." Oddly, that made me feel better. We went back into the bedroom. Now the smell of sulfur was almost overpowering. Our eyes watered with it. Grimly, we all started scrubbing as fast as we could, trying to desperately stop the flow of blood down the wall. I don't know how long we were at it, but it seemed like moments when we heard Emma's mom come in and call for her. Emma looked sick. She knew as well as we did we had to tell. Couldn't hide this big mess. She knew we were all in trouble for it. "Let me handle it," I said to her. "I've got an idea." Emma looked relieved and nodded. We dropped our cleaning cloths on her desk and went downstairs, trying not to look as sick as we felt. We all said hello once we got downstairs and once Emma's mom had gotten herself sorted out. I sheepishly said that I thought there might be a problem with her attic. Her mom looked at me and asked me what it was. Well, we were playing in Emma's room and some gunk came down the wall. Maybe something wrong with the roof? We tried to clean it, but I don't think we did a good job. Emma's mom used a couple of swear words we weren't allowed to use and headed up the stairs. "Nice one," Emma said, sounding relieved, as we followed her mom up the stairs. "You girls," her mom said as we came up behind her. "I thought there'd be an absolute mess in here, but it looks like you cleaned whatever it was." She sounded happy. We looked at each other, puzzled. "You girls better go soon. I'm going to be making Emma's tea," she said to us, and inched past us, and we went down the stairs. We shared a look and shot into the room. There was absolutely no sign of the blood that had been there, and the smell of sulfur was barely there. The cloths on the desk were as clean as the walls. I wasn't hanging around after that and told Emma I was going. Rebecca did the same, and we went downstairs, retrieved our school bags, and headed home. The next couple of days we deliberately avoided each other. I don't think any of us wanted to talk about it. That afternoon was etched in our brains, and I think if we'd talked about it, it would have made it even scarier than it already was. It would have made it real, something we couldn't brush off. Plus, there was a message the board had given us, and I didn't want to think about that. This wasn't the end of the story, though. The next Monday in school, Rebecca came over to me and asked me if I had seen or talked to Emma. I was puzzled and said that I hadn't, and asked her why she was asking. Rebecca looked worried and said that she hadn't seen Emma since Saturday, and she wasn't in school. I said she'd probably just caught a cold or something and was staying in rather than coming to hang out. Rebecca nodded and said she'd go around after school to see if she was okay. The next day, Rebecca came back to school and looked like she'd been crying. I ran over to her and asked her what was wrong. The popular kids tried to stop me, but they didn't manage it this time. Rebecca looked at me, and it was the last time we ever spoke. "Emma's missing," she said. "She's been gone since Sunday morning. The police are at her house." The popular kids pushed me away then, and surrounded Rebecca, offering what sympathy 12-year-olds could. I didn't resist. On one hand, I wanted to jump for joy. It wasn't me. But on the other, I knew that meant that what the board had said had come true. I didn't touch the Ouija board for decades after that, and Emma, poor Emma, we never did see her again.